Hello and welcome to the Global Leadership Podcast, where leaders from every walk of life come together to learn to lead in healthy, holistic ways. I'm your host, Whitney Putnam, and I am so glad you're here. You're listening today because you are someone who wants to get better, who believes in being the best that you can be, who knows that your leadership matters. And today we're going to be talking about an area that great leaders must get right, and that's execution. As leaders, we can have the most extraordinary, grand vision, but if we lack execution, that vision, as Thomas Edison puts it, is just a hallucination. At the Global Leadership Network, we've been thinking a lot about execution because we just wrapped up the summit, the thing that we've been dreaming about and working toward all year long. And while so many of our guests had an outstanding experience with so many excellent speakers and life-changing insights, our execution failed when it came to our streaming feed. We had technical difficulties that meant some of our online and host site guests did not get to have the experience we had planned for them. So we have been really thinking deeply about how to respond when our execution fails. A few of the things that we've been really focusing on as a team are, one, just really making sure that our guests who had this experience feel very seen and heard. We are listening. We are taking notes to your experience. We are taking full responsibility for the failure, and we are not pointing fingers. We are doing our best to lean in and practice unreasonable hospitality, just like Will Guidara taught us last year. Asking questions like, how can we go above and beyond to make the situation right for those that were most impacted? We're analyzing what went wrong so that we can learn and eliminate the issue. And lastly, we're doing our best to rebuild trust with you, with our guests, so that we can continue to deliver the summit in the best way possible. It's a hard and humbling path, but I'm also reminded that this is what leadership is all about. It's responding to the unexpected with maturity, grace, and confidence. And with that being said, if you were one of the guests who did not have the 5-star experience we planned for you, we recognize it, we own it, and we are working hard to ensure a world-class experience in 2026. Now, on to our conversation today. David Ashcraft, CEO of the Global Leadership Network, and I are going to be talking about all things execution. We chat about the balance between vision and execution, not getting bored in the details, and creating a culture of delegation. Listen in and get practical tips for how you can grow in execution as a leader. David, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Whitney. Thank you. Good to see you again.
It's great to see you too. It's good to see you. So this month, David, we are talking about execution, and I'm really excited to learn about this from your leadership. I know you as a leader where you are extremely strong in vision. Can you tell me, is execution a personal strength of yours, or is that something that you've developed over the years?
So, Whitney, I actually love both sides of it. I love trying to figure out, okay, where might we go in the future? And it could be, earliest days, it was a small project at a camp that I was directing, and we were trying to build a new playground. And so it was, here's the vision of what we can do. Now, let's figure out the steps to get there. And so I love that planning side of it as well. And then I love actually pulling it off and seeing it come to fruition. So that's probably something I enjoy a lot.
Okay, that's a uniqueness of a leader. And I also love, now that when you look back, did you see yourself when you were planning that playground? Oh, I was vision casting and planning it? Or now when you look back on your life, do you see, oh, that was even playing out in smaller projects like a playground?
So it's funny when you're starting out, especially, and until people start pointing things out to you, you don't know what you're doing. You're just doing it. And it's just what seems logical. And so what seemed logical is to help everybody understand here's where we're going. And then here's how we're going to get there. And so I don't know that I ever thought of that as even vision casting. I don't know if I thought of it as that. I know I didn't think of it as vision casting or execution. It was just doing what needed to be done to get the work done. So.
Which is such great leadership. I love that so much, David. You weren't thinking about the title. You were thinking about the dream of it and how is this going to help people. Yeah.
And I think sometimes we've got to be careful. Sometimes now, later in life, as I have opportunity to talk about leadership, sometimes we can talk about it in such a way that younger leaders or any leader thinks, oh, I have to have this formula that I'm following. And it isn't always so much about a formula. It's really all pretty basic. And, I go back to one of my favorite summit talks, and I think it's a favorite for so many people. And it was just the challenge of here's where we are today, here's where we want to go in the future, and it was how to get from here to there. And that's what leaders do. They help people get from here to there. And it's not only the vision, but it's also what are the steps we're going to take to get there. So it's pretty basic, but it's a huge thing that a lot of people miss.
Yeah. What would you say? I love this quote from Thomas Edison, and this speaks to that says, vision without execution is just hallucination. So you're talking about those barriers that people will just miss. What are those barriers that people miss in the actual doing of the work?
I think, Whitney, a lot of times what happens is we get bored in the details. And so we get so wrapped up in what it's going to look like. But then when it comes time to actually doing it, that's where the hard work is. It's easy to dream and come up with that vision. It takes time and it takes effort to hone it in so that it's very clear for people. But the steps to get there, that's where the tedious work comes in. That's where, at this year's summit that we just came off of, which was an excellent summit, but there were several talks that really talked about just the mundane work of leadership. And it's just doing the boring things over and over. And so the vision is exciting, but it's just those mundane steps that you show up and you keep taking another step and another step, which eventually gets you to where that vision is. So I think we get tired of it. It's just boring. Sometimes it can be boring. It's not exciting. It's tedious, but it's what's necessary.
Yeah. So personally, David, I'm so interested in this. I love learning how other people execute like this. Like you're just saying, it gets boring. It gets hard too. Like the work, like you said, it's really hard work. So do you have I'm going to have two questions for you. So just be thinking about these. Do you have personal rhythms in your own life that when you're in that boring, tedious work that keep you encouraged? And then my second question is, okay, it's keeping you encouraged, then how do you do that with the teams that you lead? So what personal rhythms do you have? How do you psych yourself up to get through the hard work?
So, definitely it's not easy. Again, you can get bored, you can lose sight of the vision. So for me, it's keeping that vision out there in front of myself to remind myself of ultimately where we want to go. But it's so easy to lose sight of that even, again, you get into the day-to-day grind. And so if it's a big vision, it's not going to happen in 2 weeks or 2 months or maybe even 2 or 3 years. It's going to happen 4 or 5 years down the road. And so you've got to keep that out there. For me, it's incremental steps. And so if it's going to be a 5-year thing that I think it's going to take for us to get there, then let's break it down into, a couple of 3 chunks. And then even there, break it down into smaller chunks so that I can see progress and I can see wins as I go along. So it's challenging. It's not necessarily the easy thing. And I think part of the leader's responsibility then is to keep throwing that vision back out there for people that are following and working on, because it's not just you that's working on the details. Everybody in the organization is having to work on the details. And I think one of the missteps that leaders make so often is people come into the organization, they know their task, but they don't know the vision. And if we don't keep recasting it, then they're working on task after task after task, but they don't know why they're working on that task. They don't know what it's going to accomplish down the road. They don't know how it's going to benefit the organization. And so they just kind of get caught up in the task and they're just doing busy work in their minds when really it's something about accomplishing that bigger vision.
Yeah. David, I have to tell you this story. So we are working, right? So the marketing team works to help execute the summit. And so right now we're working on GLS 26. We start thinking about GLS 26. And so we're working on ideating. And there was something that happened in my day just the other day. And I don't know if you've ever had this, David, but it could have been the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I mean, it could have been what made me just kind of like sink back and say, whoa, this is hard, just too much. And I took a long beat, a minute. I took a minute. And then I called my teammates and I said, hey, I can't do this by myself. I need some help to talk through this problem. It really, honestly, David, it was because I wanted to know I wasn't alone in it, if I'm going to be really honest with you. Yeah. And that was so, so helpful for me. So do you see yourself too, kind of when that straw that's going to break your camel's back in the execution, what do you tend to do inside of that scenario for you?
For myself personally?
Yeah, as a leader.
So it kind of varies. It depends on what the project is. And so if we're getting close to finishing the project, then typically I put my head down and grind it out. If it's still a long way to go, then I give myself some flexibility. I mean, there's different ways that I've done that over the years. So as a pastor, one of the things that we talk about all the time is spending time with God on a daily basis. And I can't tell you how many times I have had different programs of how I was going to do that. And I would do well for 6, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. And then I'd stumble and I would, for whatever reason, I'd get busy. I wouldn't take time to read the scripture and talk with God. And so I'd miss a day, and then I go, then I'd miss another day. And then I'd just kind of throw my hands up and quit altogether. And then I'd start feeling guilty because here I am a pastor and I'm supposed to be good at this. And so then I'd start another program and I kept stumbling over and over when it finally really clicked for me. And so, I mean, this is literally 30 years of my life. And so early 30s, I was already serving in a church as a pastor and struggling with this. And it wasn't until I finally gave myself some leeway and said, okay, realistically, I'm not going to do this 7 days a week. Realistically, 5 days a week. Realistically, I'll probably read 5 days a week, but the other 2, I may not. And that's okay. And once I started giving myself leeway to do that, then it became a whole lot easier. So giving myself some grace and then remembering the big picture. It isn't about the task of every day I have to read the Bible. It's the task of I'm really doing this so that I can have a better relationship, a friendship, so to speak, with my Heavenly Father. And so therefore, that's the vision that I'm working towards. And if I get caught up on the task, I mean, I'm a task person, Whitney. And if I show you my to-do list, I mean, this is my to-do list for the week, and I love crossing things off. Mm-hmm. And so it's easy for me to check things off as tasks, but that doesn't help me necessarily accomplish the vision unless I keep that out in front of me and remember there's a bigger purpose. So I think give myself some grace and leeway to mess up, but keep driving forward.
Yeah, I love that. You're giving yourself some permission. And in your relationship with God, I mean, he just wants to meet with you and be your friend. So that's pretty cool.
Exactly.
And even too, just being permission as a leader as well, just keeping that vision in front of you. One thing, David, that I've noticed in working under your leadership is you're really great. I see you do this in meetings, and it's things that I've watched and I've imitated now inside of my own teams. And so, David, you're really great at delegation and saying, okay, hey, who wants to pick that up, or who's really strong in this? And so can you just speak a little bit to your vision of delegation? And I really see you building a culture of that inside of the GLN. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
So I think for me and my experience at LCBC, the church that I was a senior pastor at for a while, for 32 years, I started out by myself. And then as we were able to start adding staff, when I stepped away, we had 300 staff members. And if you truly want everybody else to own the vision and be excited about it, then they need some sense of ownership, responsibility as well. And so if I'm just the only one managing that vision, we're not going to ever get there because nobody else is going to be excited about it. So want ownership. And so I need other people to be involved in the project. The other is I truly believe people are way better than me at accomplishing a variety of tasks. And so I think the way we grew from just myself to 300 staff members is I would bring people around me that had the potential to be way better than me. And oftentimes as leaders, when we're hiring people on a scale of 1 to 10, if I'm an 8, if I'm thinking of myself as an 8, then I may hire 5 or 6s or 7s to work under me because somehow I think I can guide them and lead them and keep control of them. Or I can go out and say, I'm only a 7 or 8, but man, if I could hire 9s and 10s around me and let them take it and be way better than me, then it's going to help us move forward. And so my goal was always to hire people that could be way better than me. We didn't in the early days have the money to hire experts, so we would look for people that had potential to be experts. And then I would hire them. I would say, here's what I know about it. Here's kind of the vision of where I think we want to go with it. Now, let's work together in the early days, but then I want you to become so much better than I could ever possibly be at your job, at your task. And what I hope ultimately is people from around the country are going to come to you and say, man, how do you do this? And we want to learn from you. And so building a team of experts around me, that I'm not the expert. I'm the one that kind of keeps casting the vision, but I need experts around me to carry it out. So
Yeah. I think that's so cool. I think so many people can learn that. And you know what that spells to me, David? Like when you say that and you share that vision and how you approach really just the work that God has given you, that spells humility to me. I mean, that just spells out humility in leadership. And so refreshing. I just think that's so refreshing, and it lets other people feel empowered and unleashed. So that's really neat, David.
Whitney, one of the other things, as I think about vision and taking people along the journey to get to where you hope to go, one of the stories I tell all the time is when Ruth and I were younger, we, in our early 20s, we were just married, and we would take groups of 100 or so high school, college kids skiing in Colorado. And everybody on the buses would always take 2 buses as 24-hour drive up there, so straight through. You felt terrible by the time you get there. And you'd have all these kids that had never been in high altitude, so they're feeling the altitude. And the expert skiers, or those that had skied before, the vision for everybody was to get up on the mountain. And the expert skiers would tell all those that had never skied before, yeah, I'll take you up. I'll show you how to ski. And so they would take them up on the Black Diamond slopes, and they're accomplishing the vision. They're taking them up on the mountain. But these novices who had never skied before could never get down the mountain. So you'd have all these kids sliding down the mountain on the seat of their pants, just praying they get to the bottom. And that would always be the first day. Second day, I've skied a lot, but I enjoy the blue slopes, and I'm fine with that. But I would end up with 20 or 30 kids following me the second day because I would stay at a level that they could actually experience. We'll get up on the mountain, but we'll do it at a pace and in a way that you can actually enjoy the mountain. And then I would ski out ahead, and I'd go down to a turn, and then I'd wait for everybody to catch up with me so they could see me, and then would go to the next. And the vision was go from the top to the bottom, but I've got to help them in manageable chunks to get there. And so it was just an illustration for me of what happens oftentimes with leadership is we get so far out in front of people, or we take them on a journey that is so difficult, they're never going to get there. And if we'll just slow down, bite-sized chunks, help them work their way down the mountain or up the slope, whatever angle you're going, then it can be kind of a fun thing for everybody. It's an exciting journey. Because again, it's not even just about getting to the vision. It's partly what happens in our lives as we get to where God is trying to take us or where we're trying to go as an organization. So
yeah, I love that story. That's a great story. And that's something I think even a word for our visionary leaders, David. I know one thing, a phrase I repeat to myself often is, Whitney, enjoy the journey. Because I sometimes just want to be there. Like I want to, and sometimes in my head, I'm already there. But it's just like you just said, David, just enjoy the journey. And sometimes it'll surprise you. Like you said, in those increments, you might learn and even shift course a little bit. And I love that. Last question for you. And I know this is a question I wrestle with and other people just wrestle with, I think in general, if they have a faith story component to them, is this, okay, how do I trust God with outcomes and execute as best I can at the same time? Because sometimes the outcome looks a little bit differently than my original vision. Have you ever wrestled with that? And just what advice would you give for people that's maybe part of their story?
yeah. So I think, Whitney, for me, I can think through 4 or 5 big kind of visions that I've had the opportunity to be a part of. And so defining what that looked like and then working on the steps to get there. Hopefully, each of those situations, talking to God and saying, God, if I'm doing this wrong, tell me, guide me differently. And what's fascinating with all of those is they pretty much came out the way we had envisioned. The steps to get there were probably always a little bit different. Or when I thought we'd go here, then we ended up over here, but we eventually got there. And so I think there's something honoring about having that vision that's out there, not holding it so loosely that it's mine and it's got to happen exactly the way I think, but at least having it out there and then making steps to move that way. And God promises in scripture to guide us, and he just says, I'll be behind you. I'll tell you to go left or right. And so if we're willing to listen, then he'll guide us and get us there at the right time, in his time, not my time, and in the right way. Because again, the journey is so important, and it's not about just racing to the top. And, you and I, we work at the Global Leadership Network. Our big event is the Leadership Summit. It's a 2-day event. And we do a lot of things throughout the year, but a lot of what we do is working towards those 2 days. And so we can grind for 360 whatever days a year that is. And then in 2 days, it's done. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Did we even get to enjoy that? And if we wait and only enjoy the 2 days, or if we're so busy during those 2 days, we don't even get to enjoy those. And so when do we enjoy it at all? And so figuring out, okay, it's not just the end that is enjoyable. Let's enjoy every step of the way as we go through it. So it's an interesting one, but very applicable for us in the role that we have.
It really, really is. And I think for a lot of leaders as well, just enjoy the journey. And like you said, those steps may change a little bit, but keep that vision real clear. David, thank you for joining us. Thanks for talking about execution. This was so great. Thank you.
Thanks, Whitney. Appreciate it.
Okay, leaders, what is your one big vision like David talked about? If you already know it, spend a few minutes today, maybe right now, recentering yourself on it. And if you don't know, take some time to pray and think through where you're headed on this journey. And next, so what are the steps you need to take today or this week to execute that vision? And ask yourself, where has your execution faltered as the year has continued? Think through one step you need to take right now to get your execution back on track. And if you want to keep growing in this area, check out social media where we'll be talking all about execution this month. Or check out Team 365, our video library of past summit talks where we'll be highlighting execution all September. Go to globalleadership.org/leader-resources to learn more. That's globalleadership.org/leader-resources. Thank you again for joining us today, friends. And remember, when the leader gets better, everyone wins.